morning, everyone. Thank you very much for watching my videos. If you like this one, check out my other videos. Every time I make a video, I feel the need to explain myself. So here I go to get it out of the way. So I'm not an expert, and I don't pretend to be. And most likely, if I'm making a video, it's because that's the current subject that I'm studying. I feel that's probably the case with a lot of people when they create a video, but not everyone is as honest to state the fact. I am reading a 600-page textbook on the PIC microcontroller and embedded systems, particularly for programming in assembly language. I find it helpful to study some of the core components of a microcontroller. In this case, I'm looking at the 18F family of microchips, and I'm following along in an official microchip guide. It's not a specific data sheet, but it's supposed to accompany the various data sheets for all the various different chips. I will leave that as a link below. And finally, I am getting to today's topic, which is the program counter in the PIC. The program counter is used to point to different addresses in ROM memory. ROM memory, of course, is where you have stored your program code in the PIC when you flash it. So your program counter goes through your code sequentially and executes one opcode at a time. And it generally does this in order, but then again, codes can be pushed and popped out of the stack as well. So that contradicts what I just said, that the program counter executes instructions in order, but generally it does that. From what I read, as microchip developed PIC chips over time, the family of chips became more sophisticated. Likewise, the program counter in the various PIC families also increased in size. The PIC 12Fs had a 12-bit program counter. The 16Fs have a 14-bit program counter, and I have read that, say, in the 16F family, the 14-bit program counter actually became a limitation, especially when it came to page switching, a subject I still need to learn more about. So in the PIC-18 series, they increased the program counter size to 21 bits, which, as I understand, gave room for future growth of the technology. As I have read, the 21-bit program counter allows access to program addresses up to a decimal quantity of around 2 million. On screen, hopefully, I can show you the hexadecimal to decimal conversion. So, again, as the CPU fetches the opcode from the program ROM, the program counter is incremented automatically to point to the next instruction. The wider the program counter, the more memory locations a CPU can access. In 18F, once again, this is a key feature and an upgrade because the program counter is 21 bits. As I have read, even though the program counter in the 18 series is 21 bits, that doesn't mean that a PIC chip has that much on-chip ROM actually installed. It will be specific to a particular 18 series PIC chip. The PIC 18F2220 only has a few K of on-chip ROM, whereas a chip like the 18F6680 has 64K of ROM. And now I will turn to looking at this PIC18F manual, and I won't try to put anything here forth into my own words. I'm just going to read it as it appears. I figure the way it's written is superior to my own words. Alright, so I'm just going to use the Find feature of Google Chrome to search through this PIC18 MCU family reference manual. And the place to start, I think, is the program memory. And I will just read it. But I took this and I put it onto the Paint program, and hopefully that's much nicer to look at. I don't like to innovate too much, but I was having a hard time getting it all on the same screen. So I will read this first. Section 7, Memory. 7.2, Program Memory. The reason I read this is because it deals with the program counter. Program Memory. Enhanced MCU devices have a 21-bit program counter capable of addressing 2 megabytes of program memory space. The program memory contains instructions for execution and data tables for storing fixed data. Data tables may be written once using table write instructions and read as required using the table read instructions. The program space is implemented as a single contiguous block. The reset vector is at address 00000H. I guess that's here. The high priority interrupt vector is at address 8H, and the low priority interrupt vector is at address 18H. Call and GOTO instructions can address any location in the memory map, while the BRA and RCall instructions have a limited program memory reach, plus 1024, minus 1023 program memory word locations. To allow the call and GOTO instructions to contain the entire address, it requires that these instructions use 2 program memory words, 2-word instruction. Instructions are also available to move information between the data memory and the program memory areas. These are called table operations. Table operations work with byte entities. This is discussed in detail in the table read, table write section. Here is figure 7.1, program memory, map, and stack for PIC18. Here's the program counter. Yes, I put the yellow on here. Call, B sub, return, ret fee, ret LW. And then there's the stack. I guess there's 31 levels. Reset vector, high priority interrupt vector, low priority, on-chip program memory, external unimplemented program memory, read as 0 in microcontroller mode, user memory space, and it has the address range. Alright, I figured maybe I should cover this. I'll see. Depends what I find here. I could use a lesson. So this is on page 4 of the PDF sheet. These numbers don't always sync up with the PDF numbers. Anyway, so table read, table write is listed here in the table of contents. It shows up again here in the core, which, what's this? Maybe the architecture? And these are the basic features that are required to make the device operate. Table read and table write actually shows up as an assembly instruction in the control operations category. Page 157, section 8, table read, table write, highlights, introduction. Enhanced devices have two memory spaces, the program memory space and the data memory space. The program memory space is 16 bits wide, while the data memory space is 8 bits wide. Table reads and table writes have been provided to move data between these two memory spaces through an 8-bit register tablet. The operations that allow the processor to move data between the data and program memory spaces are table read, table write. Table read operations retrieve data from program memory and place it into the data memory space. Figure 8.1 shows the operation of the table read with program and data memory. Table write operations store data from the data memory space into program memory. Figure 8.2 shows the operation of a table write with program and data memory. Table operations work with byte entities. A table block containing data is not required to be word aligned, so a table block can start and end at any byte address. If enhanced MCU instructions are being written to program memory, these instructions must be word aligned. Well, maybe this is getting off topic, but it came up as important in the program counter, so here it is. So this is on page 92, and it's talking about the different types of architecture. Well, since I'm here, I might as well establish a few things. This will be quick. The high performance of the PIC-18 devices can be attributed to a number of architectural features commonly found in RISC microprocessors. So my textbook was saying this too and going into detail, but yeah, PICs are reduced instruction set computers, and they are Harvard architecture. And they are single cycle instructions as well. So I understand these are like some major features which improve the speed of PIC chips. Well, I won't go on about that. But the reason I covered that is because the program counter shows up here in the architecture section. I'll just read it in. Register file architecture. The register file's data memory can be directly or indirectly addressed. All special function registers, including the program counter, are mapped in the data memory. Since a program counter is a special function register, I thought I would just read the definition of a special function register as a source destination. The section 31, instruction sets orthogonal instruction set, allows read and write of all file registers, including special function registers. The user should be aware of some special situations which are explained in the following subsections. Well, anyway, on page 94, there is the general enhanced MCU block diagram. I'd be lying if I told you that I have a full comprehension of this, but for my own studying, I would just like to point out what is in proximity to the program counter via data buses. So here's the program counter here. It has a LATU, and anyway, it has the level stack underneath it. It's got arrows going out to the table pointer, and then the program counter is going out to the program memory. So this is the ROM, up to 2 M bytes. So it's also going... So I'm not sure how this all works exactly, but you've got the program counter, and it's going out to these file select registers, FSRs. So let's read about what FSRs are. They fall under the category of general purpose registers, GPRs. Enhanced MCU devices may have banked memory in the GPR area. GPRs are not initialized by a power-on reset and are unchanged on all other resets. The register file can be accessed either directly or indirectly using the File Select Register, FSR. Some devices have areas that are shared across the data memory banks, so a read-write to that area will appear at the same location value regardless of the current bank. We refer to this area as the common RAM. Well, okay, so the data RAM is listed up here in a roundabout way. Here are the FSRs. Maybe this is an example of Harvard architecture. There's a data bus for ROM, and then some not too much ahead on page 95. It's talking about the clocking scheme instruction cycle, and the program counter comes up. So I'll just read the whole paragraph. Clocking scheme instruction cycle. The clock input is internally divided by 4 to generate 4 non-overlapping quadrature clocks, namely Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Internally, the program counter is incremented every Q1, and the instruction is fetched from the program memory and latched into the instruction register in Q4. The instruction is decoded and executed during the following Q1 through Q4. The clocks and instruction execution flow are illustrated in Figure 4.3 and Example 4.1. So I just want to emphasize something. So every Q1, the instruction is fetched from the program memory and latched into the instruction register. So it's talking like from the program counter, instructions are fetched from the memory, data memory, program memory, not sure. But here's the ROM latch and instruction register. Oh no, we're talking program memory, not RAM. So the instruction is fetched from the program memory and latched into the instruction register. So we're talking about the program counter fetching the ROM and latching it into the instruction register. And it shows the arrows kind of going this way. So maybe from this ROM latch, depending on the instructions, then it uses address memory to store and compute operands, perhaps. I shouldn't think out loud. And I said I wasn't going to do that, but here I go. This skips ahead a few pages to page 96, and the program counter shows up. I will just read this paragraph. Instruction flow pipelining. An instruction cycle consists of 4 Q cycles, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Fetch takes 1 instruction cycle, while decode and execute takes another instruction cycle. However, due to pipelining, each instruction effectively executes in 1 cycle. If an instruction causes the program counter to change, example, a GOTO instruction, then an extra cycle is required to complete the instruction. This is the original page that I read, like this one here, when I started this video, which talked about GOTO here in the program memory section. So guess what? I'm just going to read it again. Call and GOTO instructions can address any location in the memory map, while the BRA and RCall instructions have a limited program memory reach. To allow the call and GOTO instructions to contain the entire address, it requires that these instructions use 2 program memory words, 2-word instructions. I have to learn exactly how many word instructions are executed per cycle. I won't talk out loud and risk having an error in my video, but I understand there was something special about call and GOTO and a few other assembly instructions, maybe these ones too, BRA and RCall, which took like more than 1 program memory words, maybe taking more cycles. I won't talk about this too much. This actually appears earlier in the manual, and it's talking about the sleep mode, and I guess the program counter is sort of like suspended while it's in sleep, and it won't advance till the mClear pin is high. This is kind of getting at what I was talking about for the GOTO instruction. I'll just read it. Single cycle instructions. With the memory program bus being 16 bits wide, the entire instruction is fetched in a single machine cycle, except for double word instructions, I guess like GOTO. The instruction contains all the information required and is executed in a single cycle. There may be a 1 cycle delay in execution if the result of the instruction modified the contents of the program counter. This requires the pipeline to be flushed and a new instruction to be fetched. Now I'm back on page 96. I think I read this first paragraph. Well, it's all discombobulated now, so I'm just going to start reading this whole paragraph because it really talks about the program counter. Instruction flow pipelining, page 96 of the manual. An instruction cycle consists of 4 Q cycles: Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Fetch takes one instruction cycle, while decode and execute takes another instruction cycle. However, due to pipelining, each instruction effectively executes in one cycle. If an instruction causes the program counter to change, example GOTO instruction, then an extra cycle is required to complete the instruction. See example 4.1. The instruction fetch begins with the program counter incrementing in Q1. In the execution cycle, the fetched instruction is latched into the instruction register, IR, in cycle Q1. This instruction is then decoded and executed during the Q2, Q3, and Q4 cycles. Data memory, I'll get this up. Data memory is read during Q2, operand read, and written during Q4, destination write. Example 4.1 shows the operation of the two-stage pipeline for the instruction sequence shown. At time T CY, is that carry on? At time TCY0, the first instruction is fetched from program memory. During TCY1, the first instruction executes while the second instruction is fetched. During TCY2, the second instruction executes while the third instruction is fetched. During TCY3, the fourth instruction is fetched while the third instruction, call sub 1, is executed. When the third instruction completes execution, the CPU forces the address of instruction 4 into the stack and then generates the program counter to address of sub 1. This means that the instruction that was fetched during TCY3 needs to be flushed from the pipeline. During TCY4, instruction 4 is flushed, executed as a NOP, and the instruction address sub 1 is fetched. Finally, during TCY5, instruction 5 is executed and the instruction at address sub 1 plus 2 is fetched. And I guess this corresponds to some sample code, which I didn't even cover. Move LW 55H, move WF to port B, call sub 1, BSF, port A, bit 3, forced NOP, instruction at address sub 1. Maybe there's some code I should have inspected before I just read this. Most instructions are single cycle. Program branches take 2 cycles, since the fetch instruction is flushed from the pipeline while the new instruction is being fetched and then executed. Alright, so here I am on the instruction set instructions. Anyway, at the bottom here there's a note. If program counter is modified or a conditional test is true, the instruction requires 2 cycles. The second cycle is executed as a NOP. Anyway, here are the notes here, and all the ones with a 3 relate to the thing I just read. So decrement F, DECFSZ, DECFSNZ, and INCF apply. And I guess the main point is that the instruction requires 2 cycles. BTFSC, BTFSS, bit test F, skip if clear, bit test F, skip if set. Those ones also apply. And this isn't applicable to control operations. So I'm back here again on the program memory section. Once again, that's this page here. And so I covered this, but then a little bit down, so it's talking about the reset vector. Well, the program counter shows up here again. On any enhanced MCU device, a reset forces program counter to address 0H. This is known as the reset vector, since this is the address that program execution will branch to when device reset occurs. Any reset will also clear the contents of PCLATU and PCLATH registers. Well, that's pretty obvious. That just means on a reset, the program goes back up to 0, which is the reset vector. But what was this PCLATU and PCLATH? Well, I remember that showing up in the block diagram. Yeah, so here's the program counter here. Zoom in a wee bit. And within the program counter, here's the PCLATU, PCLATH. Do those require some type of study? Okay, so I did a Google Chrome find search of these terms, the PCLATU and the PCLATH, and lo and behold, the program counter shows up on page 136. Perhaps this is where I should have started this video, is here. So I'll read this entire section of the program counter. You might want to go to the bathroom or go stretch your legs for a minute, because what I'm about to read, it's going to take a fair amount of time. Page 136, Program Counter, PC. The program counter, PC, specifies the address of the instruction to fetch for execution. The PC is 21 bits wide and addresses each byte, rather than words, in the program memory. The low byte is called the PCL register. This register is readable and writable. The high byte is called the PCH register. This register is not directly readable or writable. Updates to the PCH register may be performed through the PCLATH register. The upper byte is called the PCU register. The PCU register is not directly readable or writable. Updates to the PCU register may be performed through the PCLATU register. The PC structure is thus, and is equivalent to thus. Figure 7.3 shows the interaction of the PCU, PCH, and PCL registers with the PCLATU and PCLATH registers. Program counter structure. PCLATU, PCLATH, PCU, PCH, PCL. Reserved, maintain these bits cleared. I saw that in my textbook. These are usually written as zeros. I'll read this while that's visible. The low byte of the PC is mapped in the data memory. PCL is readable and writable just as in any other register. PCU and PCH are the upper and high bytes of the PC respectively, and are not directly addressable. Registers PCLATU and PCLATH are used as holding latches for the high bytes of the PCU and PCH, and are mapped into data memory. The user can read and write PCH through PCLATH and PCU through PCLATU. Anytime PCL is read, the current contents of PCH and PCU are transferred to PCLATH and PCLATU respectively. Anytime PCL is written to, the contents of PCLATH and PCLATU are transferred to PCH and PCU respectively. Note, the values in PCLATU and PCT and PCLATH do not always reflect the current value in PCU and PCH. When needing to modify the current program counter PC value, first read the PCL register to update the values in the PCLATU and PCLATH registers. The PC at program counter addresses bytes rather than words in the program memory. Because the PC must access the instructions in program memory on an even byte boundary, the LSB of the PC is forced 0 and the PC increments by 2 for each instruction. The LSB bit of the PCL is readable but not writable. Any write to the LSB is ignored. Figure 7.4 shows the 4 situations for the loading of the program counter. That's this next figure here. Okay, so you can thank me because I squeezed all of the data sheet onto a single viewable sheet, which I will read for your listening pleasure. Figure 7.4 shows the 4 situations for the loading of the program counter. Situation 1 shows how the program counter is loaded on a write PCL. Is loaded on a write to PCL. Situation 2 shows how the program counter is loaded during a GOTO instruction. Situation 4, don't know where 3 went. Situation 4 shows how the program counter is loaded during a call instruction, with the program counter loaded, pushed onto the top of stack. Situation 6 shows how the PC is loaded during one of the return instructions, where the PC is loaded popped from the stack. So I think I'm nearing the end of my video here. Hopefully that serves for some learning. It's what I call an information sandwich. That's when I mash up a bunch of different pieces of information into one video and just hope that it makes some kind of sense. Truthfully, I think I understood about 25% of that, given that I've been reading along in a textbook which does describe some of these things. But I haven't actually exhaustively covered the program counter. And just to scroll through here, so there's the GOTO, computed GOTO instruction, which talks about the program counter. Return address stack, so we're still in the memory section. Interrupts. And you might be thinking, why am I watching this video? I could look through the reference manual myself. And that's absolutely true. And there is the link in the description below for the manual. And good luck, and I hope you can understand this far better than I can. Have a good day.